Welcome to the Geek 101 podcast. Arrowverse, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 1. I'm your host, Andy Bowman, and with me, as always, are good friends, Tessa and Sam. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. It's finals week here, so a little overwhelmed, but enjoying Crisis.
Okay. Samothy, how are you?
I am just relieved we finally made it to Crisis. Because I don't know if you know this, but a crisis has been coming.
Well, I think only Barry and Oliver really acknowledge that a crisis has been coming. So, let's just go ahead and kind of talk about this, because it hasn't lived up to expectations, but it's been fun. Episode 1. Let's go ahead and talk about episode 1 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Do either of you want to talk about the just basic plot synopsis? We'll go ahead and do a list of cameos later.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could do a whole podcast just on the cameos in the last 3 episodes. But, the first episode is Supergirl. So a lot of it happens on Earth 38, which I thought was really interesting. But basically, we get to see at the beginning of Supergirl an antimatter wave, which we knew was coming for most of the season, sweeping through. We get to see it destroy Argo, and sort of these natural disasters start happening around Earth. And we get this really fun Clark and Lois on Argo putting baby, is it Jason?
No, it's not Jason.
Starts with a J, though.
Jonathan.
Yeah, putting baby Jonathan in a pod, which begs the question, why don't they build more pods? You'd think they'd learn after Krypton. And sending him off to Earth. And then Lila, who has been turned into Harbinger, which the outfit is awesome. I'm really into the Lila Harbinger outfit. She shows up to collect all of these other heroes, just like Harbinger does in the comics. So she brings Flash and Arrow and Sarah and Ray and a couple of other people to help out on Earth 38 to prevent it from being wiped out by the antimatter wave.
Which goes super well, and Crisis is over.
Right, and Mia's there, so Oliver's daughter is brought with them. Trying to think if anybody else is there. I mean, we get to see Alex and Lena because it's the Supergirl show, and Martian Manhunter and a couple of other people, Brainy. But they didn't have as much to do on this particular one. It's very focused on plot, this first episode. There isn't as many character interactions as I would have liked. When we talked about the comic book series, we talked a lot about how the best part of the comic book crossover were these like small character moments. We don't get as many of those in this first episode. It's very much like, this is Crisis, it's happening, it's here, we're going into action, we have to defend this tower that stops the antimatter wave somehow against these like evil shadow spirits. I will say too, like, I don't think the first episode sets up the anti-monitor super well. Like, it's actually very difficult to know exactly, if you're not familiar with the comic, who they're fighting against. Did anyone else feel that way?
I mean, I definitely did. Like, it's just like, oh, are we fighting against a person? Or are we just fighting against a malevolent force? Like, what's the point of this crisis? You know, if it's a natural disaster, you can't fight it.
Yeah. So I feel like there was a little bit, I needed actually a little bit more exposition, I think, at the beginning of this episode. I mean, if we're going to talk about the comic, it kind of fits perfectly. There's a bunch of people, some of which you may or may not know, and there's a bunch of cameos, which we're going to talk about. And they're all fighting to stop an antimatter wave from destroying the Earth. So yeah, I mean, again, like, if you weren't familiar with these shows, or you weren't familiar with, you know, the concept of Crisis, I feel like this is a very jarring entry point, this first episode.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think the first episode is very just convoluted for no reason, but it has kind of a surprising ending.
Yeah, so I remember after watching this, I was like, well, that was really ballsy, because we've known for this entire season that Oliver was going to die, in Crisis. I mean, Oliver even mentions it a couple of times in this episode, and he dies at the end of the first episode. Like, that's it for Oliver Queen. He dies buying time for Lena and Alex to get more people off of Earth 38, because they ultimately fail in defending the tower, and they know they're going to lose the Earth, so they basically are just trying to buy as much time as they possibly can. The Monitor whisks everyone away. He comes for Oliver last, and Oliver's basically just trying to buy time. And then we get this really touching death scene with him and Mia and Barry and Sarah, like the people who know him the best, with Kate Kane standing in the background being like, I have no idea who most of these people are. And so, yeah, I mean, it does have it goes for stakes almost immediately. This idea that Oliver dies at the beginning rather than at the end, as I think a lot of us thought that he would.
Sam, you've been quiet. Do you have anything to say?
I mean, I wasn't too surprised that he died in that first episode, and I was further less surprised when he didn't stay dead. Which of course we get to in episode 2. So I read somebody tweeted about this first episode of Crisis and coined a term that I am super happy to know about. It's called why watch. You've heard of hate watching. This is why watching. As in, why would you watch this if you have no idea what's going on? And basically the guy who was tweeting was talking about his wife having watched 15 minutes of Arrowverse show over the past 8 years, walks in and goes, now what's happening? And proceeds to follow it. This is definitely much like the Crisis comic. If you're not, you cannot casually watch this. It reminds me of the time I didn't watch the last 4 seasons of Smallville and watched the series finale and had no idea what was going on. But, like times 2.
Okay. Now, one thing I do think that this first episode did pretty well. Brainy has a lot of really insane lines. I was really laughing at his alliterations that he had. I thought it was really fun. But another thing that it did was kind of, bring up the Legends went to future Star City at some point, and that future Star City is nothing like the Star City of the future we've been seeing in Arrow. Why is this? Well, apparently they just accidentally went to a different Earth and didn't even know it.
I mean,
that seems on brand.
Yeah, seems right. Seems right. It was interesting, though, that they run into Oliver of that Earth there, too. I actually kind of thought they were going to bring him over.
Yeah, me too. I actually thought, the multiple Oliver Queens were going to be involved, just like the multiple Supermans in the comic.
But sadly, they haven't gone there yet. We have not seen Old Man Oliver. Although he does get to apologize to Sarah for bringing her on the boat in the first place. So, I guess there is that character moment in the first episode. But I was looking for, a good character moment between Barry and Oliver, and that didn't happen. I'm not even sure they had any lines together for the majority of the episode. Kate and Kara have a couple of moments throughout all 3 episodes. Which mimics some of the scenes from the comics as well, because there are several moments in the comic where it's Batgirl, not Batwoman, in the comics, is having these conversations with Kara. So you have a little bit of it in this first episode, but it's very, very plot driven.
Yeah, and I think maybe the one thing you didn't mention was, you did mention that Lena helps
Alex.
Yeah, it helps Alex, but they're dynamic. Lena the whole time is, I'm not doing this because I like you. You're not forgiven. I hate you. I wish you'd die in a fire because you betrayed me by lying.
It's a little over the top. It's just a little bit. But I guess we also get a moment between Oliver and Mia, because Oliver gives Mia her own
suit.
Green Arrow suit.
Yes.
And we finally get to see that. So there's a little passing of the torch, as it were, which is, of course, a staple in comic books.
Right. And I think further hinting at that the Green Arrow and the Canaries or the Green Arrow of Green Arrow and the Canaries, the next CW show, is going to be Mia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think that was ever a question on anybody's mind, but
No.
It wasn't going to be William. Let's just be honest about that.
Although I'm hoping that the first part of the Arrow finale in January is the backdoor pilot for Green Arrow and the Canaries. I'm actually really hoping that he is going to be Overwatch.
William?
Yeah. I could do with him still being on the show. He's all right. We haven't seen him. Have we seen him? We haven't seen him on Crisis.
I think we'll probably see him in the Arrow episode in January. Mm-hmm. Probably.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of legalities where a lot of the ancillary characters are only going to be in the episodes tied to their show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you almost have to do it that way because otherwise, again, we've talked a lot about the show about character management and what happens when you try to put everyone on the screen. It becomes really unmanageable really fast. So the fact that, like, in this first episode, we have Flash and Green Arrow and Supergirl and Superman and another Green Arrow and, White Canary and the Atom. That's a lot of characters, a lot of, like, big names who all have these storylines and backstories. And so it's cool to see them together, but sometimes it can get a little overwhelming if you have more than that.
All right. All right. Did you guys have any highlights of episode 1 you wanted to talk about?
Do we want to talk about the cameos last after we talk about all the episodes, or do we want to do
Yeah. Cameos will be last.
Okay, cool. So we'll come back to the cameos, because there were some good ones in the first episode, for sure.
All right, let's go ahead and just dive right on into a much more interesting episode 2.
The Batwoman episode.
Yeah.
Which centers around Superman.
I mean, that seems right.
Well, yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about the Superman thing, because it's not really a cameo, since Brandon Routh is really, really heavily just... You know what? Let's just go ahead and just do the plots and then talk about the fun cameos, because that's what we're really watching for.
Okay. Do we want to go back to episode 1, talk about that first?
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and do... I think it's the first cameo is actually the Titans.
Yeah, we get like 3 cameos back to back at the very beginning of the episode.
We see somebody before we see the Titan.
Well, we see... I think we see Dove from Hawk and Dove, that they are in the Titans.
Don't we see someone from the Batman universe first? I wasn't
Yes,
familiar.
we see Robert Wool's character from the 1989 Tim Burton Batman. So we know that Michael Keaton Batman is canonical in the Arrowverse. Then we see the Titans.
Right. And then we see Ace the Bat Hound being walked by Burt Ward.
Who has maybe one of the best lines of Crisis thus
right.
far.
Right. Who, what does he utter before he dies in oblivion?
Holy crimson skies of death!
That was great. I really like that.
It just proves that you really can be a vigilante and then have a life after.
Yeah.
He seems pretty well adjusted.
Well, until he gets destroyed by the antimatter wave.
Yeah, well.
I mean, and that's the thing, is that we see all these cameos really quickly at the beginning, but it's all being destroyed by this, like, antimatter wave, which is supposed to, like, bring this idea home that all these Earths are being destroyed. I do think that there's something here, and we do not have to get into it in a weird, geeky, scholarly way, but I think there's something here to saying, like, this Crisis is taking all of these adaptations of comic books, all of these properties, and basically saying they're all true, right? They're all canon. Michael Keaton Batman is canon, Burt Ward is canon, the Titan show is canon, Later we're going to see some earlier shows like The Flash and so on. And so I think that that's interesting. Instead of just saying like, oh, we're doing our own thing. They're basically kind of using this idea that all of these properties are basically alternate universes, which I think is really interesting from like a textual point of view.
Well, the problem with that is that I don't think Michael Keaton's going to put the suit on again. I mean, he might put his vulture feathers back on again, but I don't think he's putting the Batman suit on again. And Adam West is, of course, dead. But the Titans have been renewed for another season. And so I think it might have been a tactical error to put them in at the very beginning, because all of this is going to be undone, or selected parts of it are going to be undone. And it struck me as very like, wait, no, none of this is real. Okay, no stakes.
I mean, it's kind of like Infinity War and Black Panther and Spider-Man, right? Like,
sure,
you know that they're going to have movies,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I do think with the Titans, I don't even think they filmed anything new. I think they just took footage from the Titans show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes sense.
But there were two other cameos that actually might have gone unnoticed by people. First, we have Will Wheaton as a
yes, the apocalypse crier. Yeah, I enjoyed. I looked over at Tess. I was like, "Is that Will Wheaton?"
Oh, Will Wheaton.
And then we have Griffin Newman as the trivia host at the bar.
Yeah, I knew he was somebody, but I didn't know who he was.
Right. For those of you who don't know, Griffin Newman is probably more famous as playing the live-action version of Arthur in the most recent version of The Tick.
Okay.
Which is really fun. But he also has a podcast that Geek 101 co-host Ariel actually listens to quite a bit, called Blank Check.
Oh yeah. We've listened to
Blank
Oh,
Check.
hey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's Griffin Newman. So it was just kind of fun that he was at a bar. But for me, the more fun part was the team at the bar was Katie Lutz and Brandon Routh playing Adam and White Canary. But it was a direct reference to the first episode of the third season, or the newest season of Legends of Tomorrow, where Janis Joplin sees Ray Palmer as a little robot man and makes a song about Little Robot Man.
Katie Lotz's or Sarah's response to that is great, where she's like, not only did you change history, but you ruined trivia night.
I was very much with her because I was very indignant in my mind that Mercedes-Benz is the last song she recorded. I knew that. I would have gotten that right at trivia, except Ray would have ruined it for me.
Haircut.
So,
yeah. I think that's most of them, though. There's more cameos, I think, in the second episode than there were in the first one.
Right. Well, the big cameo also was Wentworth Miller as the ship's AI.
Yes. Yes. That was great. I love that Wentworth Miller was basically like, I don't really have time for this. I'm doing Madam Secretary, but I'll do some voice work for you, which is great.
Like, we don't know. Like, Wentworth Miller might actually make an appearance in the next two episodes.
That's true. So we had Captain Cold, Citizen Cold, and now Cyborg Cold.
We also did get to see a brief CGI glimpse of the Ray, so that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and Earth-X is gone, people.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it, the Nazi planet's gone.
Ah, shame. All right, jumping right into episode 2, because the cameos I feel are less blatant and more important to the actual like overall story in episode 2.
I was going to say a lot of are they cameos if they're sustained scenes?
Well, yeah, I was going to say there's some good scene work happening in episode 2, I think. Yeah.
The first one, or the one that will stick in everybody's mind, of course, being Smallville.
Yes.
Yeah, she called him Smallville. They moved back to Smallville. like he brought her to Smallville to run the farm together, and she still calls him Smallville. I really appreciated that.
So in this episode, Lex Luthor gets a hold of the Book of Destiny from the Elseworlds crossover and goes around to different Earths, killing their Supermen before they can just die. So that way, just in case, if he survives.
Lex holds a grudge.
But I really love this idea about it, and it's really meta because, you know, Tom Welling is apparently just over the idea of Superman, but he comes back to play a Superman who's given up his powers for love, and it's so nice.
But he still is stronger than Lex,
The whole time I was like, he's
Yeah.
gonna punch you. Do you see the dude? He's stronger than you. Also, I really like, this is probably the best part of the crossover for me. When he says, I'm Lex Luthor, and Clark looks at him and goes, no. Like, the only thing that scene was missing was a follow-up line where Clark says, but you do look like that guy from that sitcom.
The line, I didn't know the president was in town.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty good too. That was pretty good. But yeah, so, I mean, the second episode is definitely more of a fetch quest than the first episode as well. Because, yeah, there's this idea that, like, the Monitor says, so there are these paragons, there's 7 of them. He identifies, I think, in this episode, Sarah Lance as the Paragon of Destiny and Supergirl as the Paragon of Hope. And then he says, we have 2 more hints about 2 more of them. One is you have to find, what I'm going to say is the saddest Superman. He basically says the saddest Superman. And then he says the other one is the Bat of the Future. So everyone is like, Batman!
Which, yeah, I like leaned into my wife, Sarah, and I was like, Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond. And we don't get Batman Beyond.
Nope.
But we'll get to that in a second, because so Lex gets to kill Earth 75 Superman, which is clearly Christopher Reeves, right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah, we get to see like an image of that.
Right, which I like that. You know, Christopher Reeve can't be in this episode, so they do a very good job doing the Death of Superman cover in real time.
Yeah, I like that.
And eventually Lex shows up on Smallville, which is Earth 167. And when he finds out that this version of Clark has given up his his powers, what he says is, you've taken all the fun out of this, and just leaves him be.
After getting punched.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Right. They then go to another Earth, and I forgot the number of the Earth. I think it was 95.
Yeah.
It was 96.
Right.
And that's the year Kingdom Come came out. And Lex has a line that I loved, which is, in this world, Clark Kent is Superman. Can you believe that?
It was pretty great.
That matches up real well with the scene where is it where does the Monitor out Bruce Wayne as Batman?
Yeah.
And Kate says, maybe we could just keep that in here.
Yeah, maybe we could just keep that to ourselves.
So it happened. There's a couple of those that are really good. The Lex one is great.
I love, though, by the end of this episode and really the beginning of the next one, that everyone is just like, whatever, secret identities don't matter anymore. Barry's just running around without his cowl. Like everybody's just like, it's fine.
We also got the scene where, in the first episode, where Kate Kane takes off her hood as Batwoman. I was like, you guys can call me Kate. And Oliver just goes, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Also, this episode, the second episode, has a lot of Kate and Kara going on adventures being BFFs.
Yes, and we will talk about that, Tessa.
Yeah.
Calm down. We will cover that because it's great.
It is great.
We still have to do Superman
Okay,
fight,
I'm
the
sorry.
most boring part of the crossover.
That's true. Although, I really actually appreciate this version of Brandon Routh's Superman. I will say.
Or who calls him jacked?
Is it Lois?
No, it's Kara.
Iris?
Yeah.
Kara calls him jacked, and Tyler Hutchins Superman's like, he's kind of your cousin.
That's right. That's right. I just want to say when Supermen fight, we all lose.
Also,
because it's boring.
Also, I do want to make a point that Kara is very horny in this episode.
It's true. She mentions a couple of very attractive.
It is the end of the world, and there are a couple of good ways to react to that, and that's both of them.
I love horny Kara. That's great. Like,
she loses her Earth.
Right.
I mean,
hey, she's wearing pants. She has bangs. She can do what she wants.
Right. I mean, if she wants to get some dick, she can get some dick.
But yeah, I mean, so they go and they find the saddest Superman, who is played by Brandon Routh in his recurring.
Who is truly the saddest actor to have played Superman.
But the reason he's the saddest is because the Joker, which it took me a second to realize that's who he was talking about.
A Gotham reject.
Yeah, he says that Gotham reject thought we weren't covering him enough, or like covering his jokes enough. And so he like gassed the Daily Planet and killed that Earth's Lois, Jimmy Olsen,
Perry White,
whose name Perry White. Thank you. I can never remember his name.
Right.
Well,
and so
pretty much everybody.
Yeah, pretty much everybody except for, of course, Superman. So he's like lost everything, and then they're convincing him to come and help them, and of course he's like willing to do it because he's Superman and he's like always willing to help. But then Lex shows up and using the Book of Destiny makes both the Supermen fight each other. Which again, we did this last crossover. Like we've already seen Superman fighting himself. So it felt a little bit like a retread over old ground.
Yeah. And they ultimately get Brandon Routh on their side, and Brandon Routh goes with them, and he's super happy about it.
Yeah, and they get control of Lex again. They put him in prison.
Yeah, Lois pulls a Tangled and hits him on the head.
Yeah. Lois just hits him in the back of the head because he's not paying attention to her.
Well, that's what I said to Tessa while they were fighting. I'm like, he is distracted. You could just hit him on the head and it happened.
Nope. Instead, Iris has to hang halfway out the window. Like that's going to help anything.
Oh man, I was screaming for Iris's death. I was like, yes, this would be great. Just like somehow let Iris die here. That'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
So I know we're not to predict predictions for episode 4 and 5 yet, but I do think there's a good chance that Lois is going to be the MVP. Like, I think she might pull it out at the end.
How has Lois not already kind of been the
that's
MVP?
what I'm saying. Like, I think in our power rankings of crossover, like winners and losers,
so
she's up there.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot of work this crossover. Like, she's been talking to people. She's been helping people.
She found a good babysitter for little Jonathan.
Which future is it? They're trying to find like a functioning wave rider. And so they go to one of the other Earths and find another Earth's Mick Rory, who is very similar to the Mick Rory that we all know and love, except for he hasn't succeeded yet with his romance novel franchise, the way that he has on Earth 1. And then he's the one that has the computerized Leonard Snart. And so they decide to give him the baby. And so for a lot of this episode, Mick Rory is standing in the background reading his romance novel to this baby.
Caged passion.
Yeah, caged passion. And the baby's just kind of like, hey guys, just hanging out. Don't have superpowers yet.
So, okay, let's talk about the moment that everyone's going to remember, that Kara and Kate go to Wayne Manor on Earth 99, which, by the way, is the same year that Batman Beyond came out, and we get to see Luke Fox.
Who I would like to politely submit that we call Fit Fox.
Okay. Fit Fox, who I was screaming at my wife, oh my God, we're going to get Batman Beyond, and it's going to be Luke Fox. It's going to be Batwing. It's going to be Batwing Beyond. Yes. Not yet. But horny Kara does mention that he's got some great abs.
My favorite is Kate's response to that. She's like, yeah, we're not doing that.
And then we meet amazing Batman, which I would just call Frank Miller's Batman, played by voice of Batman for most years, Kevin Conroy.
We refer to Luke Fox as Fit Fox. We like to refer to this Batman as Dick Wayne. Not because, he's the dickish Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he is such a dick. Like, even more so than Batman usually is.
Right. Beautifully, though. Like this is, I mean, this is basically the Dark Knight Returns Batman who won.
Yeah, basically, yeah, because Kate comes to talk to him because she says he's supposed to be the paragon of courage. And so she comes to talk him into it. And she apparently in this Earth has died several years before while being Batwoman. So they have this really interesting conversation about that, while Kara is sort of snooping around the rest of the manor because Kara, you know. And she discovers that not only has this Batman been killing people, like there's like a newspaper headline that's like the reign of terror ends or something like that. But he's been killing his enemies, so he has trophies from like the Joker, and from I think Scarecrow is another one that he has a trophy from.
The Riddler is in the background.
Yeah, like the Riddler. So he has like these trophies that are like covered in blood. Like he's a serial killer, basically. And then, of course, Kara picks up this pair of glasses that is broken and has blood on it, and we all know what that means. It means that in this version of Batman v Superman, Batman won.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I want to say that she's being observed all the time by what I can only guess is Pool Boy Fit Fox. Like Fit Fox is just hanging out with his shirt open. Like, I don't know what his point is. I guess he's Bruce's personal nurse, but... If
you have abs like that, I mean, like, wouldn't you just have your shirt open all the time?
Anyway, yeah, this Dick Wayne is horrifying, and the voice is so perfect. Man, it's so great to hear him do Batman's voice.
I'm just happy that they got him to do this dark of a version of Batman. Like this is good. Like, he like, really... Kevin Conroy really sells it here. Because he basically is just like, yeah, like this job breaks you, and then you start doing things that you didn't think you were going to do. And then when Kara, bursts into their conversation to confront him about killing Superman, it's revealed that he has kryptonite, which is always fun. And Kate ends up killing him. I mean, accidentally, but still.
I don't think she killed him.
Are you sure? Like, she pushes him into the...
Right. I think she just shocked him terribly and he passed out, but, I mean, I'm okay with it if she killed him.
I thought she killed him, for sure. Because he's wearing the exoskeleton, because he has, like, which really reminded me of the Chris Nolan Dark Knight Rises, where Bruce Wayne goes to the doctor, and the doctor's just like, we have to talk about the cartilage in your knees.
By the way...
I don't have any.
You know what? We need to discuss that doctor. Do you know who played that doctor?
No.
Okay, that doctor was played by Thomas Lennon. You might know him better as Officer Dangle from Reno 911. And have you heard about his newest casting?
Yeah, yes. We just read about this last night. I did not realize he was in The Dark Knight Rises, which tells you exactly how long it's been since I've seen that.
He was the doctor in Dark Knight Rises and Memento.
Okay. He's also in How I Met Your Mother.
But amazing improv comedian. He is going to be playing Mr. Mxyzptlk in the second half of Supergirl season, whatever season this is, 5.
Nice try, Supergirl. Fix your Lena problem.
Anyway, sorry, just because you brought that up, I was like, yes, that's Thomas Lennon.
No, I mean, it's very relevant to this conversation.
He's also like one of the most profitable screenwriters in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Anyway, continuing on about this. Okay. Kate kills Dick Wayne. I'm fine with that. You know what? Whatever. It wasn't on purpose, but also great.
She kills him or she badly injures him. The point is he's out of the game. Like, he's not coming back with them.
Right.
So they go back and to tell the Monitor that they failed, basically. But then he was like, actually, it was within you the whole time. Kate Kane, you are the Bat of the future. You just had to go there to find yourself.
Womp womp.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm okay with Kate being the paragon of courage, but it was just kind of a really roundabout way of doing that.
Yeah. And the Monitor's reaction to this is kind of like yes, I planned that all along. You actually were.
He's like a really bad magician sometimes.
Well, I'm getting like the Wizard of Oz feelings from him, right? Like he's just like, oh yes, that was all according to plan.
Yeah, we get a little bit of that. We haven't mentioned, so we get Lila as Harbinger, but we also get Nash as Pariah from the comics. He doesn't have a lot to do in these first 2 episodes, but we should mention he's in the first 2 episodes. So the idea is that he's the one who actually opened the gate, or the conjunction between the matter universe and the antimatter universe, and so that he's been doomed to like watch all these Earths die. Which is obviously what happens in the comics.
I want the person in the Crisis writers' room. Guggenheim said they assembled a writers' room for Crisis on the Kevin Smith after show. I want the writer who raised his hand and said, you know, guys, we don't actually have to do some of the stuff from the Crisis comics. Like, we don't need to do a Pariah, that we don't have to. And then got shouted down. I just want that writer to make him or herself known publicly so we can laud this person for their choices.
Yeah, he doesn't really do a whole lot in these first couple episodes besides sort of hang out creepily in the background.
Right. And Pariah also, like, Kavanaugh is hamming it up.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people are hamming it up in this episode. Everybody's like, we're doomed. Everybody's doomed.
I'll save my Kavanaugh comment for episode 3.
Yeah, he has more of a role in episode 3, for sure.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and dive into episode 3 then.
We finally get the scene where they acknowledge Earth 2's gone, and Barry's like, now what?
Sam,
wait,
this is the only thing Sam cared about.
Like, no. I wanted Barry to go, wait, what? Walks in to, hold on, we kind of left something out from episode 2. Lazarus Pit, Jonah Hex gets a scar. We raised Oliver. He has no soul. We kind of have to fix that. So anyway, in episode 3, when Barry finds out that nobody told him Earth 2 is in there, I want him to run into the medical bay where soulless Oliver is and punch him in the face and go, you know what you did. And Oliver says, I don't. And he's like, well, I'm angry anyway.
He's unconscious. How would he say that?
I don't care.
Oliver would just be like, "Arr, arr, arr."
Yeah. Yeah, so that storyline has been both really great and really frustrating for me at the same time, because on the one hand, I'm like, Sarah, come on. Come on, Sarah. You know better than this. Don't let this, like, teenager fool you into, like, doing this again. Because basically Mia and Barry first decide to take Oliver to the Lazarus Pit.
And they get Constantine to join the fun.
Join them, because Constantine's always good for this type of thing. And so they, despite Sarah's misgivings, and I love that they're like, we have to go to another Earth because Thea destroyed all of the ones on this Earth. And I'm just like, don't you think you should ask the question why? Why did she destroy all of the Lazarus Pits on this Earth?
Yeah.
But they do it anyway.
And let's talk about the little moment, like, where Sarah's like, it's a bad idea. And Mia's like, no, it's not. And Sarah's like, fine.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever.
Well, and then
my sister did it. Why should she get to have all the fun?
Well, and then like Mia is like, I trained under Nissa Al Ghul and she told me all about you. And I'm just like, and Sarah never defends herself against that comment. And I'm just like, yeah, you heard about someone from their ex. That seems like a really unbiased source of information.
Yep. Okay, episode 3.
Yeah, okay, episode 3. We're caught up now.
We've taken 40 minutes to cover 2 episodes.
We're almost there. Episode 3, I think, is the most interesting one of the 3. Because it has some really great cameos. Going along with the Oliver storyline, Barry has to tap out because he has his own other mission that he has to go on. So Diggle taps in. And so Mia, Diggle, and Constantine go to find this dude that Constantine says will help him get Oliver's soul back, and it is Lucifer from the show Lucifer, based on the comic.
Sam, I have to ask you, did Tessa let out an audible noise?
Well, so what happened was she got spoiled last night and completely flipped out.
What was it, YouTube or was it Twitter? Because Lucifer was trending on Twitter, but I also saw like the scene of Lucifer's cameo. on YouTube everywhere.
It was Google. But, like, I didn't watch it, but I really wanted to. Like, I was, like, waiting to watch it.
It was a great cameo.
It's a really good cameo, and I'm really happy, like, because they tried to fake us out, and people will remember that I've complained about this before, how I wanted him to be on this. It is such a good little scene, and if you don't watch the show, I feel like it should convince you to watch the show.
Yeah, I'm actually probably going to be watching the show soon.
Yeah, you should. It's basically more of that scene, basically. But like, yeah, he does his thing where he has the power to like make people tell him what they want, what they most desire. Mia says that she wants her father's back, and then he's like, "Daddy issues. Why didn't you say?" And so like, it's a great little scene. Plus, I think the comic books have a lot with Constantine and Lucifer together. So that was kind of cool to see those two characters interact as well.
Right, and the implication here is Lucifer is going to fuck Mia.
Oh, Lucifer fucks everyone.
Yeah.
He's an equal opportunity type of person. 100%. Well, and he lives on Earth 666. Like, the Netflix show, Lucifer, is set on Earth 666.
Right. Also, I firmly believe that even though there's a multiverse and everything, I don't think there's multiple Lucifers and gods.
Oh, no.
Right?
No. He's aware of what's happening, because he says, like, oh yeah, the universe is ending or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
very, very biblical.
Yeah, it's very biblical. Yeah, he is such a he is so good at this role, and they just did such a great job. And it's just one scene. Like, it's just the tiniest little taste of this character and what this character is. They also reference another character from the show when he says, because he agrees to help them, because he says he owes Constantine for Maze. And for those of you who watch the show, Maze is his, like, demon partner, sidekick, like a demon that followed him from hell to Los Angeles. And she is one of the best characters on the show. So I don't know what John Constantine did to help Maze out in the past, but thank you.
Maybe we'll find out this season on Legends of Tomorrow.
Maybe. So good.
Yeah.
So good. So that was the best part of that storyline, I think.
Yeah. And they end up going to Lian-Yu because that's purgatory. Lian-Yu is purgatory. You see, it means purgatory in Chinese. So, of course, it's purgatory where Oliver Queen is.
You see, it's the place that us Arrowverse viewers go. Always. And
right.
Stay there
well,
we'll
it's an easy island to get to from Vancouver.
Yeah.
We get to see Spectre on Lian-Yu because they find Oliver's soul and they're convincing him to come back, but then Spectre shows up. And I am not familiar with Spectre. Are you familiar with Spectre, Andy? Do you want to explain who this is?
I am like kind of like very familiar with Spectre as far as Kingdom Come goes. Because Spectre is like a major character in Kingdom Come. But basically he was a cop who died, and now he watches and kind of influences things from the afterlife.
Well, he's in Crisis.
Yeah, he's also in Crisis.
I remember him being in Crisis, but I had no idea who he was.
But he basically says, like, no, Oliver Queen has another destiny. I used to be the Spectre, now it's Oliver Queen's turn. And I love the implication here that basically Stephen Amell has a real reason for just popping in whenever he needs to for a scene if it deals with the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
Right? Like if he's Spectre, like, awesome.
Well, and it actually makes the end of the last season of Arrow more interesting because there's the scene with Felicity in the Monitor where she's like, I've been waiting for a really long time to see him. And then the Monitor takes her into this portal. And so we all thought it was because he was dead and somehow the Monitor was taking her to some sort of afterlife. But it's interesting to like assume that maybe he like lives in another dimension or, you know, there's something else going on basically.
Right. I also like the theme of devoting yourself to a higher power. Right? Or devoting yourself to something bigger than you. Which is something the Monitor keeps trying to make people understand. And he does so by giving Cisco his powers back unwillingly and just telling him, do it.
He's basically like, Cisco, don't be stupid. Here are your powers.
But it's a theme I really like, is like devoting yourself to something bigger than you.
Well, there's a lot of that in this episode, for sure.
Yeah. And it's kind of why I liked things like, there are just certain movies that really that theme resonates with me. The movie Calvary, which has nothing to do with geek or nerd or anything, but anyway. So we get that scene with Oliver Queen, and like that's the end, and it basically means my interpretation of this is that even though the Monitor says like this is not the end I saw for Oliver Queen, that this was always meant to happen, and the whole Lazarus Pit thing was just a distraction.
Yeah. Again, I think the Lazarus Pit thing might have been more of a, like, they had to, like, Mia and Diggle especially had to, like, work through their issues surrounding Oliver's death more than it was actually about Oliver's death. Because, because they, like, show up at the end and they're like, oh, well, Oliver decided not to come, and Sarah's like, what? We went through all that for nothing? So, yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of knowingness in this episode.
Right. And, real quick, I'll mention the other cameo was, what's her name? She's Batwoman. She's Alice.
Huntress.
Yeah. Birds of Prey, Earth 203 at the very beginning. That was there. You know, you get to see her in the Huntress because she was in the 2003 Birds of Prey, which was kind of cool.
And we got to hear Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, like being Oracle. Yeah.
Right. And really quick, let's hit up what Ray Palmer, the Atom, and the worst character in the Arrowverse, Iris, are up to in this episode.
So if you're in, and I think honestly I would count myself among those people, but I really had no idea who Ryan Joy was. Like, I'm like, wait, who? What? Huh? Regular person? Paragon? Okay. But he's not. He is the Atom.
He's the new Atom.
Yes.
Or he will become the...
Yes.
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so they're going to find more Paragons, right? Ray makes a Paragon detector, which makes sense. Sure. So we find out that Barry Allen is the Paragon of Love. Eye roll. And John Jones is the Paragon of Honor. Makes sense.
Sure.
And so the last one is Ryan Choi on Earth 1, who is a scientist at Ray's old alma mater. And so Ray and this is a Flash episode, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that. So Ray and Ralph and Iris go to convince him to join the fight. And so a lot of this episode, from their perspective, is basically trying to convince him to not... Like, they tell him it's the end of the world, and he's like, oh, well, I'm going to spend that with my wife and child. And they're like, no... Like,
no, don't do the thing that makes sense.
Don't do that. Like, come back with us. And so there's this whole scene where Iris has to tell him that she's, like, sacrificing a lot because they think that Barry might die in this episode. Which, Barry Allen does die in this episode, to be fair.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's sort of what's going on with them. Meanwhile, Barry and Killer Frost and Vibe.
Cisco. Well, by the way, so I really like I like that the Monitor trolled the last season of Flash. Like, as terrible as some of the things that happened in the last season of Flash, I'm glad the Monitor was like, no, that's stupid, Cisco. Why are you an idiot? Here, your Vibe again. Haha. Sucker.
Yeah, so Killer Frost, Vibe, and the Flash head down to the tunnel where Nashwell's originally let out, or I thought maybe let out, but I think it's just like he was, I don't know, like whatever science magic this is. They go down to that tunnel and they figure out, with the help of Pariah, how to open this door. And they find that behind this door is the source of the antimatter wave, which is being powered by Earth 90 Flash, Barry Allen, being played by John Wesley Shipp. We met him last year in Elseworlds, but it turns out that the Anti-Monitor kidnapped him at some point. Maybe?
Yeah, this is all kind of muddled.
Yeah, and forced him to run on this treadmill to power this antimatter wave.
Right. A treadmill that to turn it off, all you have to do is just run in backwards.
I know.
Well, but it's protected by a force field.
Yeah, so it's protected by a force field, so Vibe has to get him off the treadmill. And then, of course, because there's no one powering the treadmill, there's like this is my favorite part, because this does not make sense at all. So they get him off the treadmill. If he doesn't run on the treadmill, there's a failsafe in which the whole thing explodes, and to quote the words of the Earth 90 Barry Allen, would destroy all worlds at once. Why the hell didn't the Anti-Monitor just destroy all the worlds at once? Like,
because then we wouldn't have Black Lightning in the Arrowverse.
Like, if your goal is to destroy all the Earths, and you have the power to do it all at the same time.
Why does the James Bond villain, I don't remember if it's Blofeld or anybody else. I think it might be Blofeld. Why do you hook James Bond up to a thing and then point a laser that slowly goes up to him? Why don't you just kill him?
This machine is about to blow, and it's putting off all this electricity, and so Pariah brings Black Lightning in, which I did not watch the last episode of Black Lightning.
Well, but his whole family's dead,
but
so
his
it doesn't
whole family
matter.
is dead, apparently. So his Earth is gone, and he is the last person from his Earth. And it's actually a very, very well acted scene, I think, by Cress Williams, who sort of has to go through this whole range of emotions of, my family's dead, there are other Earths, they have been obliterated, I have to absorb all of this energy or we're gonna die too.
He is definitely one of the top, like up there with what's her name, Bitsy Tulloch, is that her last name?
Yes.
Yeah, Cress Williams and Bitsy Tulloch are definitely two of my MVPs. He does such a good job doing what Tessa says that it almost makes you forget for a minute that they're going to Control-Z this whole thing and he's going to get his family back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so good. Like,
that's
it's
how good it
so
is.
Good.
Yeah.
Like his acting, because everybody's been hamming it up, which is fine. That's what you want out of this kind of thing. But he and he and the Flash have a lightning off briefly, which is really great too. But then they convince him while using his name, because again, secret identities don't matter in Crisis.
Did you know his name was Jefferson?
I did not know.
Did you know his name was Jefferson? I didn't know
they
that.
say his name like 7 times in that scene. Anyway, so he absorbs all this electricity, like trying to buy them time, basically.
Saying the thing that Black Lightning says, which was great.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. What's the line? It's like
I don't know. It's like, whose future is this? Blah blah blah. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, definitely an emotional moment. This was one of the better moments in Crisis, I think. That and his conversation with Barry later. But he's absorbing all of this electricity, saving them time. They finally figure out that the way to, as Andy said, the way to turn off the machine and stop the antimatter wave is to run backwards on the treadmill.
and also, I like how the thing we've been promised from day one, they're like, loophole. It didn't say which Barry Allen. Yeah, because a newspaper would specify which Earth's Barry Allen, because that's... Sure. Okay.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it because Nora, or at least, like one version of Nora from last season, grew up without her father. So I still think something's going to happen. But basically what happens is that Barry's ready to disappear and vanish and die or whatever by running backwards on this treadmill. But then he gets his speed taken away from him by the other Barry Allen, who apparently has nobody to live for.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
we get a very quick flashback of the original show.
Yeah, and this is beautiful. This was probably the most touching moment that could have been made.
Oh yeah, they do a great job. I mean, again, John Wesley Shipp.
Yes.
Always.
For the second time, his Flash television show is canceled.
And I was telling Sarah, like, one thing about this interaction though is, instead of doing the nudge nudge wink wink you see, it's called Earth 90, you can figure out the connection by yourself. This confirms it. This does the thing that you mentioned, Tessa, of being like, no, it's all real. It's all the same.
Like, all the stories are real. Like, it's...
And I loved it for
really good.
that reason as well.
Yeah, so he disintegrates while turning off the antimatter machine, saving Earth 1. I believe all
for about 5 minutes.
For about 5 minutes. I think all the Earths are gone,
Earth 1
though,
is the only one that's left.
Yeah, so Earth 1's the only one.
I also do want to say that, in my opinion, that version of Barry Allen is way more comic book match-up-y with Barry Allen than the Grant Gustin version.
I didn't watch the original Flash show, so
I mean, you basically got him from just this interaction, right? Like, Barry Allen, that version of Barry Allen is much more Captain America-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And our version of Barry Allen is a little bit of Wally West mixed in, which, great. But
yeah,
it was. I think it was appropriate for the 1990 Barry Allen to die the same way that the comic book did.
Mm-hmm. That was nice. I liked it.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that it's a very touching moment. So they stop it for about 5 minutes. They get Jefferson, Black Lightning, back to the Wave Rider, where everybody else is. Oh, Kara tries to use the Book of Destiny to put her Earth back together.
Yeah, and this proves that Kate Kane is Batman. To me, what she does. Because it's revealed, once Kara starts asking all these questions, Kate Kane pulls out of her pocket some kryptonite.
Except I think she's better. Because she doesn't pull it out until she's ready to give it to Kara.
Right.
Like, it's not a threat. Like, she's actually doing the thing that we kind of wish Lena would do on Supergirl, where she says, look, like, this is a bad idea and I will fight you to stop it, but I know you're better than this. I know you're smarter than this. And I think that that's, like, a really good, like, female interaction.
Yeah, and one of the things about Batman is, like, prepare for every possibility, and that's why Batman's OP, and people can just say, because he's the goddamn Batman, as a reason for why Batman wins every fight.
Yeah. Well, and Kara lets her keep the kryptonite.
Right.
Like, she says, you should keep that.
Right.
Like,
but her pulling it out, it shows me, like, this is a grown-up person who understands that people might react emotionally.
So are you saying that, are you both saying that Kate Kane is a more, perhaps, evolved version of Batman? That she is actually Batman Beyond?
I hate you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Because my Batman Beyond is a white male.
I don't know what I can do for you. I mean, like, welcome to the new decade.
Oh, God.
Where everything changes and we're going to respect people and anybody can be anybody and it's great fun.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness though, like that scene with them was great and it was cheesy and it was so reminiscent of the scene in the comics where Batman gets kicked out of the Justice League.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think they've had really great interactions this entire crossover. One of my personal favorite scenes is when when Kate meets Lex and Kara, reacts badly to Lex being there. Like, she's like, you're not a good person and we can't trust you. And Kate, like, immediately is like, sounds like the Monitor can't bring you back if you die, Lex.
Yeah. That friendship and the Jefferson-Barry Allen friendship, like, I am so ready for the adventures of either of those two going off and doing things together.
That scene, like, ripped my heart out when they're talking about their dead dads. Like, oh my God.
Episode 4, they have a clubhouse in the Wave Rider, and somebody comes in and like, is your dad dead? No, then you can't come in. Sarah walks in. Yeah, you gotta have a dead dad.
Like, oh my God, though. Like, cause, yeah, I mean, again, Cress Williams is only given, like, maybe two or three scenes in this whole episode, but he kills them. Like, I was, like, crying with him, like, during this scene where he's talking about his family and his dad, and he's bonding with Barry, which, by the way, is someone he met literally 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, he quotes Dylan Thomas, like...
God. Yeah, that like got the English nerd in me, like, and it just fits so well with Jefferson's character.
And you know, the I have to say, at this point, we're 80, 40, we're about 115, 116, 117 minutes into this crossover, And all right, let's go. It's solid, which must mean it's time for the end.
Yes.
Right? Like as soon as we get this great Jefferson Barry and we're all on board and things have happened and we're ready. Yeah, now's the time for the cliffhanger. Yep.
Yeah, so Lila disappeared at the end of Harbinger, disappeared at the end of the last episode and reappears at the end of this episode.
And this twist is so much better foreshadowed than it was in the comics.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, as soon as she disappeared, I was like, she's gonna kill him. She's gonna kill him. So, yeah. We also do get to see the Anti-Monitor very briefly. At the end of the second.
Right, I mean, it's just LaMonica Garrett in white vase.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just... I gotta say, this is the most boring. But all the Monitor and non-Monitor stuff, I just don't care. I do like what happens. I do like where they are sent to where they go to the one place that the Anti-Monitor can't track them.
So let's just cover that. Basically, Harbinger reveals that she's being controlled by the Anti-Monitor, kills the Monitor, and Pariah sends the 7 Paragons to the end of time.
To the vanishing point. Or really what's left of it.
Yeah, because the Legends kind of did a number on it a couple seasons ago.
Right. And does anyone want to say the amazing twist?
So
somebody got a Sharpie and changed the Book of Destiny with a Sharpie.
And that man is Lex Luthor. Oh, God. So Pariah sends the Paragons, and we get to see everyone else die. Like, Iris, Black Lightning, Ralph, Killer Frost, like, all of these people, we get to see them vaporized by this wave. The Wave Rider's gone, Mick is gone, everybody's gone. But yeah, at the very last minute, Brandon Routh's Superman, the saddest Superman, explodes, and Lex is there. And he's like, yeah, I want to make sure I survive too. So what do we do now? And that's literally the end of the episode.
Cut to black.
Right.
Yeah.
Pulls out a page of the Book of Destiny and shows that he literally took a Sharpie and just wrote Lex Luthor over the 7th Paragon.
That's Lex for you.
It's the most perfect thing ever.
You know, the only thing that would have made that more perfect is if you remember the Stinger scene that they used 4 times in the season or the mid-season finale of all the shows. Right after that, there was like that little jaunty drum beat sound, like cue that led out of all the episodes. Like they should have used that right there. It would have been like, that's it, guys, we did it, hooray!
Yeah, I kind of wish though, like the symbol he writes over is the last symbol. I would have loved any kind of way to make it even more clear that he wrote over the Superman symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the idea that he also he also killed the Superman with this act because he could.
This is the Paragon of Truth?
Yes.
Is that his? Okay, that's really interesting that Lex is now like the Paragon of Truth. That's a little crazy. Yeah.
And the best part is everyone can't be like angry at him for more than like 2 seconds because they got to work together now.
Oh yeah, they're the only ones left at the vanishing point. Yep. They're the only 7 left. Although I will say, I'm gonna call it now. It's gonna be Kate that like pushes him. Like it's Kate, Kara, or Sarah that like does the threatening thing to him. I'm gonna call that it's Kate. Anyone else wanna take that?
And Kara's gonna be like, you killed my hot cousin.
Oh, Kara. Horny Kara.
Now we have to wait a month to find out what happened.
It was a good cliffhanger, though. Like, this made me more excited about...
It was a good...
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen between now and when they reset everything.
Yeah. I think it'll be a partial reset. I think it'll be like more of a reboot than a reset.
Well, yeah. I think it's pretty much going to be, for the most part, everything's status quo, but now they're all on one Earth.
So next time somebody that's really important to somebody from another show dies, the people who have knowledge of that can just like pick up a cell phone
Yeah.
and tell them. So maybe, yeah.
Okay, I think that's about it, guys.
Yeah. Did we miss any cameos?
Oh God, I'm sure
everybody.
we missed a few cameos.
We forgot to mention Erica Durant's
For Smallville.
plays both Kara's mom and Lois Lane from Smallville, which was her original character. I think that's the only one that I was trying to remember.
Well, also, I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but the trailer for Stargirl showed up.
Yes. We haven't watched it yet, but yes.
Well, I was surprised by one of the cast members of Stargirl.
We're going to have to go watch
who's,
that.
the cast member is Luke Wilson.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I really am thinking that the CW is going to be going to slightly higher budget, lower episode numbers Arrowverse shows.
I hope so. I know they were talking a little bit about the budget of the like how different shows have different budgets in the Kevin Smith after show, because we watched both hours of that as well. The actress who plays Mia, whose name I cannot remember, talked about how, like, she was used to having to conserve, like, because they don't really shoot arrows, right, on Arrow. Sorry if that ruins the magic for people. And so she was used to having to be like, okay, how many arrows do you want me to shoot? Because they have to CGI that. But going over to, like, Supergirl, which has a bigger budget, she was like, they were like, oh, we don't care. Shoot as many as you want. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how they redistribute after Arrow is done and after they've sort of rebooted some of these properties.
It also kind of feels like they're making a really good pitch for why the Superman Lois Lane show should be a thing.
You know, I'm still not sold on it, but if I was going to be, this version of Lois would sell me on it. Like, I still don't know what the purpose of that show would be. I don't know if those two characters could hold their own show, but I really like the Lois of this particular show. She might actually be my favorite Lois Lane. And I'm sorry, Amy Adams, I love you so much, but she honestly might be my favorite.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and end this episode. Can you guys plug your pluggables?
Yes, I am on Twitter at Suela Tessa. Suela is spelled Swehla.
And I'm on Twitter at Sam_Morris9.
And you can find me on Twitter at Hebrews Paleo. You can find the podcast wherever podcasts are sold. That's all we have for today. Class dismissed.